At exactly 11:43 p.m., Sarah's phone vibrated while she was sitting across from her husband, Ryan, finishing dinner. She glanced at the screen, and within seconds, the smile on her face disappeared. Without saying a word, she stood up, grabbed her car keys, and whispered, "I'll be back in 20 minutes." Those were the last words Ryan ever heard from her. 20 minutes passed. Then an hour. By sunrise, Sarah's phone had been switched off, her car had vanished, and nobody knew where she had gone. The police believed she had left voluntarily because there were no signs of a struggle. Ryan refused to believe it. Sarah had left behind her wallet, passport, favorite jacket, and even the birthday gift she had bought for her younger sister the same morning. Nothing about her disappearance made sense. 3 days later, Ryan received a plain white envelope with no return address. Inside was a single photograph. It showed Sarah standing in front of an abandoned lighthouse. On the back of the photograph, someone had written only 4 words. "Stop looking for her." Ryan knew one thing immediately. Sarah had never visited that lighthouse. Which meant someone wanted him to believe she had. The deeper Ryan investigated, the stranger everything became. Witnesses claimed they had seen Sarah at different places hundreds of miles apart on the same night. Security cameras captured a woman wearing Sarah's clothes, but every video was too blurry to confirm her identity. Then Ryan discovered something impossible. The mysterious text message that Sarah had received before disappearing had not come from an unknown number. It had been sent from Sarah's own phone. But according to the phone company, the message had been sent 5 minutes after she had already left the house. Someone wasn't just hiding Sarah. Someone was rewriting the timeline of her disappearance. Ryan became obsessed with finding Sarah. He retraced every route she could have taken that night and eventually drove to the abandoned lighthouse shown in the photograph. Hidden beneath a loose wooden floorboard, he discovered a small metal box containing a USB drive, an old diary, and a note in Sarah's handwriting. The note read, "If you're reading this, don't trust the investigation. Someone inside it already knows the truth." The USB drive contained encrypted files. After asking a trusted cybersecurity expert for help, Ryan uncovered a collection of financial records, emails, and security footage. Months earlier, Sarah had accidentally discovered that the company she worked for had been laundering millions of dollars through fake charities. She secretly copied the evidence, planning to hand it to federal investigators. But before she could do that, someone inside the organization learned what she had done. The anonymous text message that pulled Sarah out of the house wasn't sent by her. A hacker had cloned her phone number and used it to lure her into a trap. The confusing phone records, the fake sightings across different cities, and the mysterious photograph were all part of a carefully planned operation designed to waste time while the people behind the crime escaped. Ryan took the evidence to an honest detective who had quietly suspected corruption within the original investigation. Together they traced the money to a powerful executive and 2 corrupt officials who had manipulated the case from the very beginning. One of them had even ordered the false reports claiming Sarah had disappeared voluntarily. A raid was carried out on a remote warehouse outside the city. Inside, investigators found Sarah alive. She had been held there because the criminals believed she had memorized information that wasn't stored on the USB drive. She was weak but unharmed, and after months of fear, she was finally reunited with Ryan. The arrests that followed exposed one of the largest financial crime networks in the region. The executives, the corrupt officials, and everyone involved were convicted after the evidence Sarah had risked her life to protect was presented in court. Months later, Ryan asked Sarah what she remembered most about the night she disappeared. She smiled sadly and replied, "It wasn't the fear of dying, it was the fear that nobody would ever know the truth." As they left the courthouse together, Ryan looked at the old anonymous photograph one final time before tearing it into pieces. The picture had been meant to end their story. Instead, it became the very clue that exposed everyone behind the conspiracy. It started with a phone call at exactly 3:13 a.m. My phone rang only once before the line went silent. A few seconds later, I heard the same ringtone again, but this time, it wasn't coming from my bedroom. It was coming from my basement. That was impossible. I lived alone. My basement had been locked for nearly 2 years after my father passed away. I hadn't gone down there since the funeral because he had always warned me, no matter what you hear downstairs, never open the last door. I laughed at those words for years. Until that night. As I slowly walked toward the basement stairs, the ringtone stopped. The entire house became silent. Then I heard footsteps, slow, heavy footsteps, as if someone was climbing the stairs from the darkness below. I froze. The footsteps suddenly stopped. A few seconds later, a familiar voice whispered my name. It was my father's voice. The problem was, my father had died 2 years earlier. The next morning, I forced myself to open the basement. Dust covered every corner. Nothing looked disturbed. But near the old storage room, I found fresh muddy footprints leading to the last locked door, the same door my father had forbidden me to open. The old key was still hanging inside his workshop. With trembling hands, I unlocked the door. Inside was a tiny hidden room containing shelves filled with cassette tapes, newspaper clippings, maps, and dozens of photographs. Every photograph showed the same thing. Our house. Taken from outside. Over nearly 20 years. Someone had been watching us for decades. Then I found a tape recorder. On it, my father's handwriting read, "If you're hearing this, I'm already gone. And if the basement phone rings, he's finally found you."